us now. You and the old country.
Of course, me and all my people.
Grand Theft Auto first pulled the plug in 1999 when Tarantula Studios released a lukewarm version of the PC original for the Game Boy Color. The map was completely unchanged geographically, but the visuals and violence had to be toned down for a younger audience. GTA 2 visited the Game Boy Color as well, so it made sense that GTA 3 would go portable eventually. The effort to create mobile GTA 3.0 took 3 years from its original PS2 debut. Grand Theft Auto Advance was released on October 26, 2004, 3 days before San Andreas. Instead of a rehash of the console game, Advance was a prequel to GTA 3. Set 1 year prior, it starred Mike, another tough guy like Claude, except Mike didn't even have a last name. After Mike's cohort Vinny was lost in a car bomb, Mike put off plans to leave Liberty City so he could avenge his friend's death. He teamed up with GTA 3's 8-Ball, who was arrested at the game's end, setting up his appearance in the first PS2 game. Mike also worked for Asuka Kasen, meeting her niece Yuka in the process, and confronted King Courtney and his uptown yardies, who Claude Speed would later get to know through a payphone. Mike got assistance from a bartender named Johnny, along with Cisco, leader of the Colombian cartel, who was killed by Vinny when he returned alive, revealing himself as the villain. GTA Advance was top-down, but it was still the same general layout as GTA 3. Because it wasn't in 3D, the map was actually a bit bulkier, specifically Staunton Island. There were no sloped surfaces, trains, or tunnels, and the airport and shoreside Vale was cut off. Radio stations were locked at 1 song per car, but featured instrumental tracks from the first 3 games in the series. GTA Advance was inspired by the current gen, but had to embrace 7-year-old mechanics to tell its story. Reviews were mixed, but it was generally accepted into the GTA 3 era, despite being the only release without a PC or console counterpart. Also in 2004, the PlayStation Portable hit the scene. Starting with Ridge Racer and Dynasty Warriors, it promised to bring popular PS2 experiences to a widescreen, portable system. Imagining GTA on this new device was tempting. North America didn't get the PSP until March, and Rockstar announced a new PSP GTA 2 months later. It was to be developed by Rockstar Leeds, formerly Mobius Entertainment.
Anthony, it's over for guys like us. We're dinosaurs.
Your passion, Antonio, it's magnificent.
It was called Liberty City Stories and was released on October 25, 2005, just 2 weeks after the first footage was shown. It took place 3 years before GTA 3 and 2 years before Advance. It starred the first recurring character in a leading role, GTA 3's no-nonsense mama's boy, Tony Cipriani. He looked much younger than his 2001 self and was not portrayed by Michael Madsen. Donald Love, Ray Machowski, and Maria Latorre also returned without their original voices. Only The Sopranos' Frank Vincent reprised his role as Leone family Don, Salvatore.
You're always saying the obvious. I can't believe I'm surrounded by people like you.
A little opera, just for a change.
After killing a made man, Tony Cipriani took a vacation from organized crime and came back to Liberty City to find his role replaced by a smartass named Vincenzo. Tony put up with his new boss's disrespect for so long before doing extra missions for strip club owner J.D. O'Toole, bent police officer Leon McCaffrey, Liberty Tree reporter Ned Berner, and homicidal trophy wife Toshiko Kasen. Tony made a lot of people disappear, including Burt Reynolds' character from Vice City, Avery Carrington. Tony's priorities shifted once the new mayor, Miles O'Donovan, had Salvatore arrested. After nearly wiping out the Sindaco and Forelli crime families, Tony rescued the mayor from mafia double-crosser Massimo Torrini. putting the local government comfortably under Salvatore's control.
The city is grateful to you? Ow!
Try again.
The PSP took players to the Liberty City they knew and loved, except for a few deliberate changes. Luigi's Sex Club 7 was Polly's review bar, but its owner, JD, got rubbed out, and the Leones later took it over. There was a Little Italy district that Tony completely demolished, and during GTA 3, the area was still being remodeled. The most glaring omission wasn't in the story or map, but on the actual PSP device. Without a second analog stick, the game just didn't play the same. Tony also couldn't climb or swim, two activities fans had grown accustomed to following San Andreas.
You're on the home of rock and roll, Head Radio, with me, Michael, Eye of the Storm Hunt. You know, since I moved from the West Coast, Mike misses his riding lawnmower and having a yard. I miss my mom the most, though. God, she was hot. Almost as hot as the chicks in the video for this next song.
Liberty City Stories did have something that San Andreas and every other GTA game did not: multiplayer. 6 players could gang up via Wi-Fi ad hoc across 7 modes. This functionality helped Liberty City Stories become the 3rd best-selling game on the PlayStation Portable, but when the game was brought to the PS2 the following June, it did not include any co-op or competitive modes. On-the-go felons took solace in the announcement 1 month earlier that Rockstar was continuing its support of the PSP by taking players to the next expected stop, Vice City.
What was you expecting? You dumbass, low-life, no good brother?
Something like that.
Yeah, well, I'm not the one who got kicked out of the army.
Grand Theft Auto Vice City Stories arrived on October 31st, 2006. It took place in 1984, 2 years before the original Vice City, and earlier than any other game in the GTA 3 era. It kept many of Vice City's characters with their original voices, including Umberto Robina, Phil Cassidy, Ricardo Diaz, and Lance Vance. Even pop star Phil Collins appeared in both voice and likeness. The protagonist was Lance's brother Victor Vance, a corporal in the U.S. Army who was dishonorably discharged and dragged into the escalating drug trade.
I met a big player, and we'll get big money for doing absolutely nothing.
This better not be drugs.
We won't be touching no drugs, man. Come on. You know, I'm your brother. You can trust me.
This put Vic in direct competition with Diego and Armando Mendez, and at odds with his former commanding officer, Sergeant Jerry Martinez. The brothers interrogated undercover officer Brian Forbes, only to have the tips lead nowhere, and Vic made time to care for Phil Cassidy's sister, Louise, by eliminating her abusive husband, Marty Williams, from the equation. Vic took over Marty's drug-running business, but Louise was murdered by Armando Mendez, and Vic wiped out everyone but his brother in revenge. Although the brothers escaped alive, Vic was killed, according to Lance's story, in Vice City 2 years later.
This is Flash FM.
Hello, America! Wake up and go to bed with Terry and Tony.
Please! Please stop! I'll pay!
Vice City Stories, like Vice City, followed its predecessor's formula. Players could now portably swim and fly helicopters, but the rest of the framework was familiar. Vic had Tommy's entrepreneurial spirit and slowly built an empire from businesses he stole from local gangs. He could even bribe cops to reacquire his weapons instead of losing his whole arsenal when busted. Vice City Stories also had multiplayer, adding 3 new modes to the experience.
I've been kicked out of the military. Now I'm working with jerks, robbing people. I am not the one to ask for advice.
Hi, this is Jack Howitzer. I want to know what love is, and I want you to show me, or I'll slit your throat.
Like the first GTA for PSP, the map had a few locations that changed in the future. The Williams Trailer Park was later turned into a parking lot, the Chunderwheel Fairground was demolished, and the Washington Mall and Moist Palms Hotel eventually finished construction. When the game was inevitably brought to the PS2 in 2007, it added a couple extra jumps and side jobs, making it the only GTA port that included bonus content. Although PSP owners dreamed of it, San Andreas Stories never happened. This made Vice City Stories the last released game of the GTA 3 era, but the first in its timeline. The games from that era, in chronological order, included Vice City Stories, Vice City, San Andreas, Liberty City Stories, GTA Advance, and then last but not least, Grand Theft Auto 3. All these games were designed to take place in the same world, one separate from the GTA 1/London era and the standalone era of GTA 2. 2008 saw the birth of a fourth era, and within it, a new handheld game. Grand Theft Auto Chinatown Wars was announced for the Nintendo DS during E3 in 2008. It was the first GTA game since GTA Advance to launch on a Nintendo console, and likewise had to be toned down to suit all ages. The game utilized a top-down engine, but one that can be rotated to follow the action. The bottom screen on the DS acted as a PDA, and it delivered missions via emails and allowed you to purchase weapons from an online version of ammunition. The touchscreen was also utilized for an assortment of minigames like arming a bomb or breaking into a car. The game starred Huang Li, a member of Triad royalty searching for a stolen sword called Yu Jian, and whoever murdered his father. His request to regain honor forced him to work for Zhao Ming and Chan Jiaoming, two triads fighting to be the top boss. His uncle Wu Kenny Lee, LCPD detective Wade Heston, private investigator Lester LaRock, and Chan's father, Sin, the current triad boss. Chinatown Wars still holds the highest aggregate score for a DS game and grabbed multiple DS Game of the Year awards. No GTA game was without controversy, and despite the limited gore, some complained about the drug peddling minigame within that handled heroin, LSD, MDMA, marijuana, and more. Chinatown Wars did not sell as well as either of the PSP stories, but got enough praise to warrant several ports. Its visuals were spruced up for the PSP in October of the same year, even though the touchpad functionality had to be worked around, and it was made available for download on iOS devices in 2010.
You greaseball fuck!
There are two ways to play Grand Theft Auto, top-down and third-person. Handheld devices have proven they can replicate both, and in a few instances, even introduce new elements to the franchise. Chinatown Wars, which took place in the most recent era of GTA, was a bit of both, and is still considered one of the best handheld games ever released. The series has continued to go mobile since 1999, with Rockstar Leeds taking over development in 2005. It looks like we'll never be too far away from the wrong side of the law. In the fifth and final part of our Grand Theft Auto retrospective, we enter the HD era. Biker gangs rule the streets and lavish nightclubs light up the night, but it all begins with a European soldier coming to the US to help his cousin run a taxi business and hunt down a monster from his past.